There is only this moment. Everything else is an illusion. The mind tells stories of the past, of regrets, of things that could have been different. It projects a future filled with worries, desires, and expectations. But where are these things? Where do they exist except as fleeting thoughts in your mind? The truth is, they do not exist at all. Only this moment is real. When you awaken to this realization, a great weight falls away. The burden of yesterday dissolves. The fear of tomorrow loses its grip. You stand fully here, fully alive, fully present. This is freedom, not found in possessions, not in achievements, not in the approval of others, but in the simple awareness of now. The mind will resist. It will tell you that you need more, that you must become something, that peace is somewhere in the future. Do not believe it. Peace is here, waiting in the silence between your thoughts, in the space between your breaths, in the stillness beneath the noise of the world. Close your eyes, listen, feel the energy of life within you. It is not something you must chase. It is already here, always present, waiting for you to notice. You do not need to struggle to find peace. You only need to stop, to be, to allow the moment to be as it is. And when you do, you will see that you are not separate from life. You are not the roles you play, the labels you wear, or the stories you tell yourself. You are presence itself. Beyond all thought, beyond all struggle, you are the stillness, the awareness, the consciousness from which all things arise. The present moment is all that truly exists. Everything else is a creation of the mind, a mental projection that distracts from the reality of now. The mind is conditioned to wonder, to analyze the past and anticipate the future. But in doing so, it often pulls attention away from the only space where life is truly happening, this moment. Thoughts about the past can create a false sense of identity, a story that defines who you think you are based on memories and experiences. But those memories are not tangible. They are fleeting images and emotions stored in the mind. They may feel real, but they are not happening now. The past has already dissolved, leaving only the imprint of thoughts that the mind clings to. By identifying with these thoughts, there is a tendency to carry the weight of old pain, regrets, and narratives that no longer serve any real purpose. Similarly, the mind projects itself into the future, constructing expectations, worries, and desires. It tells stories about what could happen, what should happen, and what must be avoided. These projections create a sense of anxiety, a feeling of incompleteness, as if something needs to be attained before peace can exist. But the future is just an idea. It is not real. When it arrives, it will only be experienced as another present moment. Yet the mind continues to chase something that never truly arrives. This constant movement between past and future keeps many in a state of distraction, missing the simplicity and beauty of the now. The mind makes it seem as though fulfillment is always just out of reach, as if peace is somewhere in the distance, but peace is never in the future. It can only be found in the now, in the space where thought subsides and pure presence emerges. When awareness is brought fully to the present, a shift occurs. There is a deep stillness, an aliveness that does not depend on external conditions. The breath is felt more deeply, sensations are more vivid, and everything that was previously overlooked comes into clear focus. The moment is rich, not because it contains anything extraordinary, but because it is free from mental noise. The present moment is the only place where life unfolds. The body exists here, breath flows here, sensations are felt here. Every sound, every movement, every experience is occurring now. Nothing has ever happened outside of the present. Even moments remembered from the past were experienced in the now of that time. Every imagined future, when it arrives, will only be now. When this truth is fully realized, the need to chase something beyond this moment dissolves. The struggle to escape or change what is happening fades away. In this space, there is no need to hold on to the past or anxiously prepare for the future. Instead, there is a deep surrender to what is, a recognition that nothing is lacking. This is not a concept to be understood intellectually, but a reality to be experienced directly. It is not about forcing the mind to stop thinking or attempting to control what arises. It is about stepping back and noticing that beyond the thoughts, beyond the mental chatter, there is something deeper. That deeper presence has always been there, untouched by time, silently aware of everything. Through stillness, through presence, through allowing this moment to be exactly as it is, a profound sense of freedom emerges. There is no need to chase, no need to grasp, no need to resist. What is enough. What is all there is. The mind is constantly weaving stories, creating an illusion of time that keeps attention trapped in either the past or the future. It constructs an identity based on memory, a sense of self that is tied to past experiences, successes, failures, and the narratives built around them. The past becomes a reference point, a place where the mind repeatedly returns, replaying old conversations, regrets, and moments of nostalgia. Yet, no matter how vivid these memories feel, they do not exist anywhere outside of thought. They are echoes, remnants of what once was, but is no longer real. At the same time, the mind is always projecting itself forward, imagining different versions of the future. It creates expectations, hopes, worries, and fears, making it seem as if life will only truly begin once a certain goal is reached or a particular event takes place. It convinces itself that happiness, fulfillment, or peace are waiting somewhere ahead, just beyond reach. This constant projection into the future creates an underlying sense of restlessness, an inability to be fully content with what is here now. There is always something missing, something that needs to be attained or resolved before a sense of wholeness can be felt. This movement between past and future becomes so habitual that it is rarely questioned. It feels normal to dwell on past mistakes or anxiously anticipate what may come, but in doing so, the present moment is overlooked. Life is happening now, but the mind is elsewhere, lost in thoughts of what has already happened or what has yet to occur. This creates a disconnect, a feeling of being out of alignment with reality. The world is unfolding right in front of you, yet much of it goes unnoticed because attention is absorbed in mental activity rather than direct experience. If this pattern remains unconscious, It leads to a life of constant striving, never quite arriving at a point of true contentment. Even when a goal is achieved, the mind quickly moves on to the next thing, believing that the next achievement will bring what was missing. The cycle continues indefinitely, seeking, grasping, reaching, but never truly finding. The illusion is that fulfillment exists somewhere other than now. The truth is that it can never be found anywhere but in the present. Recognizing this illusion is the first step toward freedom. Observing the mind's tendency to escape the present and pull awareness into past and future allows for a shift in perception. Instead of getting caught up in thoughts, there is space to simply notice them. When this happens, thoughts lose their power, and awareness naturally returns to the now. The mind may still attempt to wander, but it no longer dominates attention in the same way. There is a deeper presence beneath thought, a stillness that has always been there but was previously obscured. The moment thought is no longer the primary focus, everything changes. The body is felt more deeply, the breath moves effortlessly, and the senses become heightened. Sounds, colors, and sensations are experienced without the interference of mental commentary. There is a lightness and ease, a natural flow that arises when presence replaces mental noise. Nothing external needs to change for this to happen. It is simply a matter of shifting attention away from thought and into direct experience. When fully present, there is no struggle. There is no past weighing down the mind, no future to anxiously prepare for, just a simple experience of being alive in this moment. Every sensation, every movement, every breath is happening now. Nothing else truly exists. The realization of this is the end of seeking, the end of waiting for something more. Life is not in the past or the future. It is only ever here. Inner peace is not something that needs to be created or attained. It is already present beneath the surface of all thoughts, emotions, and external circumstance. The reason it often feels elusive is that attention is continuously pulled away from it, lost in mental noise, in the pursuit of external validation, or in resistance to what is. The mind believes that peace will come from achieving certain goals, acquiring possessions, or being in control of situations. It places conditions on peace, making it seem as though it exists somewhere in the future, just beyond reach. This search for peace in external things creates an endless cycle of striving and dissatisfaction. When one goal is reached, another quickly takes its place. When one desire is fulfilled, another arises. The mind remains restless, always looking for the next thing that will supposedly bring lasting contentment. But true peace is never found in external achievements because they are temporary. Circumstances change, people change, and no external condition can remain stable forever. When peace is dependent on something outside, it will always be fragile, easily disturbed by even the smallest shifts in life. Peace is not about fixing or changing external conditions, but about recognizing that nothing external can ever provide lasting fulfillment. The more this is understood, the less power external events have over inner well-being. The world around may be chaotic, unpredictable, or challenging, But peace remains untouched by these fluctuations. It is not an absence of difficulty or a state of constant happiness, but rather a deep stillness that remains unshaken regardless of what is happening. One of the greatest barriers to inner peace is resistance. The mind constantly labels experiences as good or bad, desirable or undesirable, creating internal struggle. It resists discomfort, pushes away unpleasant emotions, and clings to what it perceives as pleasurable. But resistance only strengthens suffering. The more something is resisted, the more power it has. Even pain, when fully accepted, loses much of its intensity. When there is no resistance to what is, there is a deep sense of ease, even in the midst of challenging circumstances. Allowing the present moment to be as it is, without needing it to be different, is a doorway to peace. This does not mean passivity or inaction, but rather a release of inner struggle. Acceptance does not mean agreeing with everything or not making changes when necessary. It simply means that in this moment there is no mental fight against what is already here. This openness creates space, a sense of clarity where actions arise naturally rather than from a place of fear or urgency. Peace is also obscured by identification with thoughts and emotions. When thoughts are believed without question, they become reality, dictating how life is perceived. But thoughts are just passing mental phenomena, not absolute truths. Emotions, too, are temporary. They arise, stay for a while, and then fade. When there is a deep recognition that thoughts and emotions are not the self, they lose their grip. There is no need to suppress or control them, only to observe them without attachment. Silence and stillness are always present beneath the activity of the mind. They do not need to be created, they only need to be noticed. The mind is like a restless ocean with waves of thought constantly rising and falling, but beneath the waves, the depths remain undisturbed. The essence of peace is like this depth, always there, unaffected by the surface turbulence. Bringing attention to the breath, to the sensations in the body, to the simple experience of being alive in this moment, reveals what has always been present. The search for peace ends when it is no longer looked for in the future, but recognized as something that has never been absent. The mind has a natural tendency to resist what is. It creates an idea of how things should be and then struggles against anything that does not align with that idea. This resistance manifests as frustration, anxiety, stress, and dissatisfaction. It arises when the present moment is judged as wrong or insufficient, when there is an internal refusal to accept things as they are. The illusion is that by resisting, control is gained. But in reality, resistance only deepens suffering. When something unpleasant happens, the immediate reaction of the mind is often to reject it, to wish it were different, to dwell on how it should not have happened. This mental resistance does not change the situation. It only creates additional layers of tension. The situation itself is neutral. It is the mind's interpretation and resistance that create the struggle. When resistance is dropped, the weight of suffering lightens. Letting go of resistance does not mean passivity, does not mean allowing negative circumstances to persist without action, Rather, it means facing each moment as it is, without adding unnecessary mental opposition. Acceptance does not mean approval, it simply means seeing things clearly, without the emotional burden of wishing reality were different. From this place of clarity, any necessary actions can arise with greater effectiveness and wisdom. When resistance is present, emotions become intensified. Anger, frustration, and sadness are fueled by the belief that things should not be the way they are. The mind attaches to these emotions, reinforcing them with thoughts about why the situation is wrong or unfair. But emotions, like thoughts, are temporary. They pass like clouds in the sky. When there is no resistance, emotions can be fully felt without becoming overwhelming. They arise, they are noticed, and then they dissolve naturally. The same principle applies to thoughts. The mind is filled with opinions, judgments, and narratives about every situation. It constantly labels experiences, categorizing them as good or bad, desirable or undesirable. But these judgments are just conditioned responses. They are not reality itself. When this is seen clearly, the attachment to these mental labels begins to loosen. The situation does not change, but the perception of it does. Without resistance, there is no unnecessary suffering, only the direct experience of what is. One of the most common forms of resistance is against the present moment itself. The mind is often caught in thoughts of the past or future, believing that happiness exists somewhere other than now. It resists the simplicity of being present, constantly seeking distractions or ways to escape. But life is only ever happening in this moment. The more fully the present is embraced, the less suffering there is. Even in moments of discomfort, there can be a deep peace when there is no mental resistance to what is happening. Physical sensations also reveal the presence of resistance. Tension in the body, tightness in the chest, shallow breathing. These are all signs that something is being resisted internally. Resistance cannot survive in the presence of conscious awareness. Letting go of resistance is an act of surrender, not in the sense of giving up, but in the sense of fully allowing life to unfold. It is the recognition that fighting against what already is serves no purpose. There is a vast freedom in this surrender, a deep sense of relief. When resistance is no longer in control, there is an openness to life, a sense of flow, a natural ease that replaces struggle. The mind creates an identity from thoughts, beliefs, memories, and experiences, forming a sense of self that feels solid and unchanging. It attaches to labels, name, profession, background, personal history, and believes that these constructs define who and what a person is. This identification runs so deep that when these labels are threatened, there is fear, anxiety, or defensiveness. The mind resists anything that challenges this identity because it sees itself as these thoughts and stories. But this identification is an illusion. It is not who or what a person truly is. Thoughts are constantly changing, shifting from one idea to another, yet the sense of self remains. If thoughts were the true self, then every time a thought changed, the self would also change. But there is something deeper, something that does not change. That deeper presence remains even when thoughts fade into silence. It is the awareness that is always there, observing every experience without being affected by them. Emotions, too, are temporary. They come and go like waves in the ocean. There is sadness, then joy. There is excitement, then boredom. None of these emotions are permanent, yet the mind often attaches to them as part of its identity. When sadness arises, the mind may say, "I am sad," as if sadness is an intrinsic part of who a person is. But emotions are simply passing states, not the essence of being. They are experiences, not identity. When this is understood, emotions lose their grip. They can be fully felt without resistance, without fear of being consumed by them. The roles that are played in life, parent, employee, friend, leader, are also not the true self. These roles change over time. A person may be a student one day and a teacher the next. They may be single today and in a relationship tomorrow. If identity were truly tied to these roles, then a shift in roles would mean a shift in self. But the deeper presence remains unchanged, regardless of these external labels. Observing thoughts rather than identifying with them creates space. A thought may arise, but instead of becoming entangled in it, there is an ability to simply witness it. The thought is not who the person is, it is just something appearing in awareness. The same is true for emotions and sensations. They can be watched, felt, and experienced without becoming personal. This detachment does not mean disconnection, it means freedom from unnecessary suffering. When identification with thoughts and emotions is loosened, there is a profound lightness. The heaviness of mental noise, of clinging to past hurts, of future worries, begins to dissolve. There is no longer a need to defend an identity, to prove anything, or to seek validation from external sources. The deeper awareness that exists beneath all of this is complete, whole, and untouched by any life circumstance. Silence reveals this deeper truth. In moments of stillness, when thoughts settle, there is something beyond the mental activity. It is not something that can be grasped or explained fully in words because it is not an object of thought. It is the space in which all thoughts arise. This awareness is always present, always here, always now. It does not change with circumstances, emotions, or experiences. It simply is. Recognizing this changes everything. Life no longer feels like a constant battle to maintain an identity or to control what happens next. There is a deep trust, an ease, a sense of being that is not tied to external conditions. The mind may still generate thoughts, emotions may still arise, but they are no longer mistaken for the true self. The awareness that watches them is what has always been there, beyond all thoughts, beyond all labels, beyond all roles. Wholeness and fulfillment are often sought in external things, relationships, achievement, possessions, state. The mind creates the illusion that something is missing, that there is a gap to be filled, and that once the right conditions are met, a lasting sense of completion will be found. This search can last a lifetime, always moving from one desire to the next, always hoping that the next accomplishment or experience will finally bring a deep and lasting satisfaction. But no matter how much is attained, the feeling of incompleteness returns. The cycle continues, creating an endless chase for something that never truly arrives. The reason fulfillment is never found in external things is that it was never missing to begin with. The sense of lack that drives the search for completion is an illusion created by the mind. Beneath the noise of thoughts, beneath the desires and fears, beneath all external seeking, there is already a wholeness that has never been lost. It has simply been overlooked. The moment attention is turned inward, the need to search for something outside begins to dissolve. There is a quiet presence, an unshakable completeness that does not depend on circumstances. The mind operates in time, always referencing the past and projecting into the future. It convinces itself that fulfillment will come when certain conditions are met, when a goal is reached, when a problem is solved, when the perfect situation is created. But time itself is an illusion. The past is gone, the future has not yet arrived, and life is only ever happening in this moment. If fulfillment is placed in the future, it will always remain there, just out of reach. If it is recognized here and now, it is seen as something that was never absent. There is nothing that needs to be added to become whole. The idea that something is lacking is simply a thought, not reality. From the perspective of the mind, this is difficult to accept because the mind thrives on seeking. It wants something to strive for, something to attain. But the deepest peace is not found in striving. It is found in the recognition that nothing is missing. The moment the search is dropped, the truth of wholeness is revealed. Emotions and thoughts may still arise, but they no longer define the experience of being. A moment of sadness or frustration does not mean something is lacking. These states come and go like passing weather, but they do not affect the underlying presence that remains untouched. When attention is no longer caught up in mental stories, a natural sense of ease emerges. There is no need to change anything, no need to resist anything, no need to chase anything. What is already enough. Even in simple, ordinary moments, there is a deep beauty that is often overlooked. The mind expects fulfillment to come in grand, extraordinary experiences, but it is found in the simplicity of what is here now. The sound of the wind, the warmth of the sun, the rhythm of breath. All of these hold a quiet perfection that is missed when the mind is elsewhere. Presence reveals that fulfillment is not in the next moment, but in fully experiencing this one. When this is seen clearly, there is no longer a feeling of being separate from life. There is no longer a sense of needing to find something to feel complete. Everything that is sought externally was always already here. The mind may continue its habits of seeking, but deeper than the mind there is an awareness that knows. There is nothing to find, there is no lack, no incompleteness, no missing piece. There is only this moment, whole and complete as it is. There is nothing to chase, nothing to attain, nothing to become. The search for peace, fulfillment, and wholeness was always an illusion created by the mind, a game of seeking something that was never lost. The present moment holds everything, yet it is constantly overlooked in favor of imagined futures and remembered pasts. But the past is gone, and the future is only a projection. Life is only ever here now. When the mind's grip loosens, when resistance fades, when identification with thoughts and emotions dissolves, what remains is something deeper than words can describe. It is a stillness that has always been present, a vast openness untouched by external circumstances. There is no struggle, no separation, no need to reach for anything beyond what already is. In this realization, there is a profound sense of ease, a return to something simple and natural. Life is no longer lived as a constant effort to fix, change, or control. Instead, there is a deep trust, a quiet surrender to the flow of existence. The idea of lack disappears, and with it the need to seek fulfillment outside of the now. What remains is a presence so complete, so free, that there is nothing left to do but to fully be.